Good morning, everyone. It's Miss T. I hope you all are doing well, had a good sleep, woke up with positive vibes, spent a little time with the Lord, and are ready for your day. Today, I'm going to actually explain or discuss what I was talking about the situation with my son. So, I don't really get on here and talk. If I tell you a story, you really don't know who I'm talking about because I don't come on here. Now, I can be transparent with what I, choose to share, but I don't tell things about different people in my family or whatever. But I felt this is important because I always touch on why men always say women can't raise a man. So, a little background: my son's father was probably in his life until he was two, um, and then he would call. So my son didn't really know him, and then he passed away when he was about 10 or so. So he was basically raised in the church. So of course, I was the type, I'm going to raise him to do the right thing, to love the Lord and serve the Lord, that type of thing. Well, I have a lot of family members. I have a lot of male family members, and um, you know, my brother, who has been a big help with him. If I felt that he needed a certain type of conversation or whatever, I would send him to my brothers, you know. But me and my brother, probably, we don't have the same, he doesn't follow what I follow. And him being a former G person, I didn't want him to, you know, glamorize or make that sound, in which he didn't. He would never do that. He wouldn't disrespect me like that. So anyways, it's my, I try to, he would get him in football. He didn't particularly care for football, and I would ask him, do you want to play basketball? And just, so he's really just a video game person. um, that's what he does, play video games. And then they got, where you can play with your friends or different people. So what I've been learning, teaching him, is he needs to have communication with me. I need to know what's going on in your life, because I don't want any secrets. I don't want to have to find out. I don't want you to have to be afraid of telling me anything, no matter what it is. Now, if he's not comfortable talking about, um, the sexual things, or at that time when I felt he probably should be hearing a little bit, that's when I sent him to my brother. But then I'm thinking, what is he telling him? But anyway, so we do have, he comes home and tells me all the stuff like, Mom, guess what they did at school today, and blah, 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 blah. And he is very, of course, he's a teenager, and he has his moments, but he is not, I don't know what the word is. He's very respectful, and he doesn't, hang out. He has a few friends that I let him um, hang out with. I have to know who their parents are. I have to know what is going on, and I find that most parents don't even take the time to find out who their friends are, who their family are, which is crazy. But most of all, he's just comfortable. He has a lot of family, so that's mainly who he hangs around, and he we go on trips and he goes to church and he just loves to play video games. So back up to when he was still just a little bit younger, I could, I had talked about it's sad that boys do have it harder out here, or young men, because you're expected to be a certain way, and not all boys or men are that way. And so if you are different, you're labeled, or you're talked about, or whatever. And let me clear that up before you guys start taking it the wrong way. So I noticed, I didn't think my son, just by paying attention, and I didn't think he was a fighter. I didn't think he would, not to say, he doesn't start trouble, but to me it doesn't seem like he would be able to handle himself that way. So when he was younger, I wanted to put him in boxing. And people were saying, how do you can't send a boy to the whatever, to the gunfight, whatever. And that's a scary situation, because they always tell people aren't fighting anymore. That's just what it is. That they're not fighting, and I don't believe. I mean, if it's just someone you're in school and they start, I don't know. I thought that was left to a certain group, but anywho, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you do need to know how to carry yourself in the world, be able to handle conflict, but I just thought that maybe boxing would give him structure and confidence and things like that. Well, I guess I didn't put him in at that time. So let's forward to today. So a couple of days ago, when I was telling you guys that there was a situation and he told a lie at school, and I was going to make him tell the truth. We live in a neighborhood where, like, you could be on one street and everything is nice, everything's fine, but you can go 2 streets over and it's chaos. So in our little area might be, it's not a lot of noise or, issues, but if you go down the street or around the corner or further, there's a lot of things going on, like homeless people and drug addicts and hanging out in the streets and all kinds of things. So the other day he missed the bus. Now I do teach him that you have obligations. You have to you have to be responsible. So he got up and he said, he missed his bus. He never said, "Mom, will you take me to school?" And I think he didn't do that because he felt I was going to, or he thought I was going to say no. So he never said that. I said, "Well, how are you going to get to school?" And he told me that he was going to take the Metro bus, which was not true, that I found out. So he left, and I just, went on with my day, and everything was fine. I never thought anything, but when it was time for him to come home, I usually know what time he gets dropped off, and he wasn't there. And then when I kept trying to call him, I could tell he was walking. And of course he was going to be in trouble. He just like, "Let me just get home and then I will explain everything to you." Okay, fine. So when he got home, he told me that he had a knife at school, and either he dropped it and someone seen it and told on him, or I didn't get the full story because it sounds like some things are missing, but either way, an adult knew he had it. And what he told them was he found it at school. And just so happens that day that there was a fight. And so what they were trying to determine if someone who was fighting was the one who dropped it. And but this is the thing. He knew he took that knife without my permission. And what I had done, I had bought a hiking kit, and it had all that stuff in it. It had the knife, and it had stuff that you can, when you're hiking, that you can start fires and cut wood and all that kind of stuff. So that's where he took it from. He didn't take it to school, because they didn't even know he had it the whole day. They didn't find out until it dropped out of his pocket or whatever at the end of the day, and they wouldn't let him get on the bus to come home. He took it for protection walking to school, where he would have to pass, the drug addicts and and so, but he couldn't, he had to try to think of a way to get it back, because he knew he took it from my hiking, and he needed it back. So what he said is he found it. He wanted to take it home because he could use it for hiking. Now he's not, whatever. I guess he thought it sounded fine to him. So anyways, they kept it, and they said they were going to call me later. So he gets home to tell me, so he could tell me what happened at school. Now, and we know the policy at school is they do not tolerate any weapons, period. There's no ifs, ands about it. You will be expelled or maybe kicked out for a while, or just permanently. Now, he has 2 years of high school left, and he is on track to graduate. And I could hear the panic in his voice. So he's like, "Mom, I told him that I found the knife, and and I just, and I, right then, I was just in a, I don't know, I was just in a what is the word? Conundrum. I just couldn't think, and they were calling, and anyways, no excuse. I should have just, so I went along with his story. Yeah, I did. And so what they said was, well, we still need to know who had it. So if, we might need to, investigate, because we don't want people bringing knives to school. So I was like, she said, so, maybe he should stay home for a day, and then we can investigate and find out who it actually belonged to. So I hung up, and I was talking to him. I was like, of course he's grounded until he graduates, but I was explaining to him why. I said, first of all, you took that without my permission, and that's probably the most thing I'm disappointed with, because that's like stealing. I know I knew he was going to try to get it back before, but all these things happen. I tell you, when you do something wrong, and it's in the Bible, your sins will find you out. And so, but I was still sympathetic, because I understand as a young man that he felt not safe walking the streets, going to school. But then I had to think about, so what is it going to be the next? You just think about a whole bunch of stuff. So I had a long talk with him, and I think he felt, first of all, relieved, because he wasn't going to get kicked out of school or expelled, and also relieved because he actually got me to be on his side, and I don't know, just not saying what I should have said. So as I was talking to him, I let him go ahead. He was fine, and I just sat there because, of course, I was uncomfortable. I couldn't even, I just couldn't even think, and I knew I was not going to be comfortable. I knew I couldn't allow it to go this way. I knew I couldn't. It's not right. I can't be a person who says I'm serving the Lord and then purposely teach my son to do something that's wrong. So I told him, I said, tomorrow you're going to have to tell him the truth. And I said, and whatever consequences that you have coming, that's what you're going to have to deal with. If they kick you out of school, I'm going to maybe have to find a program to get you in, GED, something. But I'm not going to allow you, because lies will cause a big snowball. And plus, it's wrong, period. But just say that I let the story go, and then they blame it on whoever, these people that were fighting, and they had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing at all. So the next day, she was in a meeting, and she said that she'd call back. Now I could tell my son was nervous. I said, just tell her from beginning to end what you told me, and then you'll just have to deal with it. And so he told her, and she, it was almost like, I don't know how schools, I don't know, I'm not going to get into that, but what happened was, she was thankful that he went ahead and told the truth. And she said, well, he never showed it. He never, took it out and showed anyone. We actually did not even know that he had it. And, basically, if it would have just stayed in his locker or something, it would have been fine, I guess. And so she said the only issue that would be is that when he comes to school, his backpack has to be checked, and he has to be checked. And I said that would be fine, but there was going to be no, investigation. They weren't going to report it to the police. They weren't going to the school board or anything. He was allowed to go back to school the next day. So me and her had a little talk, and I explained about the neighborhood and whatever, and I don't want him to feel like that, but I don't, how can I not? He feels that it's dangerous enough that he has to protect himself with a weapon. And people are telling me, you can teach him how to box, but that's not going to, that's not what people, how they, that's not the resolution that it's just scary. I said that to say that God is good. That was his punishment. I guess, he has to be checked in. He also learned that you cannot lie. It's just not right. You can't lie. It's not. Always tell the truth, no matter what. It could have turned out a different way, but oh well. You have to be able to stand up for the things that you've done and be held accountable for them. I wanted to tell this little part. Now, she was very nice. Her name was Lisa. She was very nice and understanding, and but there was a lady that was with her. Oh, it was the vice principal. That's who it was. And of course, my son said he wanted to tell the story to Lisa and nobody else. So I guess I don't know if this vice principal has a reputation of whatever, but he didn't want to tell it to her. So I guess she made her, well, I'll just go out here and, I'll talk to him. So of course that lady would feel some kind of way. Who wouldn't? So anyways, when she goes back in the room, she explained to them what on. And so, she had to throw her, I guess she wanted to say whatever she thought, but she said, well, yeah, because he said something about he needed it for camping, and we knew that had to be a lie. I said, for your information, it did come out of my camping bag, because if we go camping, we have something to, so I had to show, what, black people don't go camping? And that's the first, why would that have to be a lie? Well, I know he told a lie, but what is this, and what does that have to do with the situation? So even if he was telling the truth, you were thinking he was lying because he said the knife he could use to go camping. But anyways, so that took me to a different level because of my stance. But anyway, it didn't go any further than that. And my anxiety had calmed down, and I was, able to get my demeanor back. But it's hard, women. Very hard. You have to be, it's not less harder to raise teenage girls because you have to worry about a bunch of other things with them also, but you have to be able to read your son, because they're more private. There's some things they don't want to talk about, how they feel or feel vulnerable or weak or cry or anything like that. I tell my son all the time that those are things that are natural. You can't keep stuff in. You can't hide and feel like, you don't have anybody to talk to. Where are you going to go to, and then if you go to a male person, how are they going to react to what you're saying? So, I think what he appreciates is the fact that I listen, I ask questions, and I'm not going to, sometimes I'm a little harsh, because I feel like at a certain age you should be doing things, you're starting to become an adult, and so you should be doing things, like he wanted to get a job this summer, but he wanted me to go online and fill it. No, you fill out your application and turn it in. I'm not going to do any of that. You have to put, you have to get, and I can see how that would look if you're saying that you can't raise, a woman can't raise a man, because sometimes women do baby their sons. And I did a lot of that because he didn't have a father, and especially after he passed away, I did a lot of that. Just feeling sorry and knowing what it was like as a child not having one. But he would never have the opportunity to even, get that back in the future, or, because he was gone and he wasn't coming back. So I now had to try to reverse that, as far as, can I have a new game, and every time I want one, and things like that. So I just focus on telling him, you're going to have to get a job. This is your main priority. He took his permit. He was passed the test and never went and picked it up. So, but he blames that. But because he needed me to take him. I'm like, take the bus. You take the bus to the mall. You have to you're 16 and you have to start trying to act more like an adult. So we're going to get that permit so you can start driving and get you a job and get you a car and stuff like that, because you really need to get them prepared for life. You can't I think sometimes boys feel like they don't have, if they're not prepared to get out there and don't have skills, what other thing is there for them to do for money? What other choice, do they feel like they have? And most of them think working fast food is beneath them, even though they don't have a job. So him even saying I'll work at McDonald's, to me was a step in the right direction. You have to start from the beginning, from the bottom you can't just go in somewhere and be a manager somewhere and you haven't put in your years of working. We have to teach them that you have to be a hard worker to, get to where you are eventually going to be. It gives you pride to know that you've done the best, and there's a reward afterwards. He decided now that he wants to go to culinary school, and like I said, he is a very good cook, and if that's what he wants to do, then I'm all for that. But we just have to, this society is not kind. It's not comforting, and it's just a dog eat dog world, or step on you, and because you can't. Everyone is not made the same way. Everyone does not think the same. You can't, and then if you're not in the same mind frame, you're different, and people don't like different. People don't like people who are different. People don't like people who go against the grain. Or if we had more people who believed in what they wanted to believe in and stood on it, then I think there would be less issues, because I just don't understand how you can be a bunch of friends, and 5, 6, 7 of you, and someone comes up with this horrible ideal, and not one thinks it's a horrible ideal and stands up and says, look, if we do this, this could happen and this could happen. We can find we can do something. I just don't understand how you have a whole group of people that have the same mindset, and that mindset would be to do something violent or to do something illegal, and not one person think, I'm not doing that. Is it because there is a couple of that might be like, I'm not doing that, but if I don't, I'm going to be looked at in a different way, so I have to go along with it? Possibly throw away my life because I don't want to be different. I don't want them to think I'm weak, or all the other words that they use for you if they don't think you're acting manly enough, if they don't think that you got jumped by 2 people and you weren't able to handle, or to handle them. That's ridiculous. Unless you're Incredible Hulk, I don't know why you would be expected. I don't know. And that's why I say men have a little bit harder, because they have to continuously try to prove their manhood, and not really be who they are. not be a painter, because that's looked at as weird. Not, whatever. Go to college to be whatever. You're either you'll get by or you'll get accepted if if you're a good athlete. Now, if you're going to school for football and basketball, then that's fine. But if you're not going for those two things or whatever, what are you going to college for? If you're going to not be working, you just either need to be a rapper or the other thing, and one of us is going to make it, and then we're going to come back and we just don't have, I don't know if it's people that don't, it's like you have to be, you can't walk your life by yourself. You have to be with a group of people. These are for young men, and it's just my observation. You have to be with a group of people, and you have to go along with what the whole group is going to do, or what wants to do. So if you decide that you're not going to walk your life or not be in your life with a group of people, and it's just by you want to make it by yourself because you want to do other things with your life, you're an outcast, and you're not treated. Sometimes all those, we're going to take your black card, and you're not this, and you act white, and what is the word, what is that saying, you act white? I would like to, because I've been told that, I've been told that they were going to take my black card, and which I don't understand, because if you talk to me, you know me, I'm probably the blackest black woman, period, on the earth, because my whole thing is, I want to know everything about my black people and what they went through and how to make a change and how to help my community and all that. So what I'm not quite sure what is acting white or sounding white or being white means. And is it because, is it a insult, or are you trying to say that white people have a certain way of carrying themselves, and black people carry themselves less than that? I don't understand. But I don't pay attention to it anyway, because you're not going to find anyone, you'll find people that respect you, or whatever, but you're not going to find, people are just going to be who they are. They might just not like you because your voice is irritating, or they might not like you because you're always happy, or you always say something nice, or you're not gossiping, or you're not arguing, or whatever. People don't like you just because you exist. And so you can't worry that I'm not on this earth to make other people like me, or worry about that. A lot of people do worry about being liked. And I would say, maybe I went through high school, or sometimes, wanting to be liked or whatever. But I found out that is not a realistic thing. You're just not, you can't please everybody. You can't go around being a people pleaser, because you're not really being yourself. People really don't care about you. And so why are you going out of your way to make them happy? They don't care about you. If you don't have the enough dignity or pride or self-esteem to stand up, and everybody moves on the other side of the room and you're standing by yourself, then what do you have? Do you shrink and move and throw away all of your ambitions, your hopes, your dreams, and just move over the other side and just try to blend in? I'd rather be standing by myself. And I've done that. And my grandmother, bless her soul, taught me those things. How do you make somebody stop judging you or stop telling you you're a certain thing because you're black? You prove them that you're just as good as the next person. So if you're standing by yourself, so be it. If you can run home and say, Grandma, she didn't let me be a victim. You're a child, and when things happen, you want to cry, and that's fine, but she didn't let me be a victim for long. Wipe your tears. It happened, get over it, and get stronger from it. And if she didn't make me or instill those things in me, I wouldn't be able to accomplish and do the things that I have done. So I thank her for that. I thank God for changing me, for coming into my life, for letting me see the truth, for letting me not fall into the game that was set out for me to, because whether you want to believe it or not, we were designed, there was already a plan, and it wasn't God's plan. He does have a plan for us, but it wasn't his plan, it was the government's plan, and we fell into it. We let them take away our leaders that were trying to get us to understand that if we don't fight, if we don't stand up, they're never going to let us be equal. They're never going. So every time that you take a step, they're going to do something, and we're going to buckle down or become afraid. How are we going to do it now? Our leader is gone, and nobody else is going to stand up because they know what the ending is going to be. And that is why I talk about Fred Hampton so much, because this man knew. He was so young. He was wise beyond his years. He knew that what he was doing was going to end his life. He knew that. But did he say, why would I choose to get my life taken for half of you who don't even care? I'm trying to make a difference. I'm trying to, better our community. I'm trying to make it so that our children get a good education, that we get good health care, that we have good housing, and that we're not treated, they don't open up a zoo and draw a line around this block and this is where you guys are going to stay, and don't come out of that area. I'm trying to and he knew that most people were not going to stand with him, but he didn't care. His main objective was, if someone doesn't does not spark a flame into the people, we're going to be stuck here forever. And have we moved? Mm, well, let's see. He, he was making good strides and helped people come together. He even got Latinos to come together. He even got white people to join in to try to make equality. And so he became too powerful. And of course, when you become too powerful, they have to get rid of you because they don't, And so that's what they did by using his good friend to betray him. And I really don't think, well, of course, nothing really, they still had the Black Panthers for a while, but of course, after that, people weren't, and then they put others in prison. And so it really didn't take off the way it could have. So let me see, have we changed? Have we moved? Has there been any difference? Let me take, for instance, Katrina. First of all, they didn't, when they don't want you to know the truth, they don't show you the truth. They're not going to show you what really happened. But of course, someone is going to find out the truth and let it and bring it out. So yeah, go ahead and look at the documentary on Katrina. It is very, very disturbing. I didn't know that they did not tell those people. Well, once they didn't make it mandatory to leave the area. I guess they didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was, so a lot of people didn't leave, and they were used to having hurricanes, so they just thought they'd ride it out. So when they found out it was going to be worse than it was, they just said, they did say it. I don't think it ever, I'm not gonna lie, it might have become mandatory, it might have become voluntary, I don't know, but by the time that it came, it was too late for people to leave if they wanted to, and most of the people that were left were poor people, and some of them didn't have cars or transportation to leave town. They didn't have these things. So Katrina came and it went, and they made it through. There was some, I believe, casualties, but the storm was over. The storm wasn't the thing that caused the catastrophe. It was the levees that broke. The levees that the town, that the U.S. government, that everybody knew were faulty and needed to be corrected years ago. But evidently, because it wasn't the levee in Beverly Hills or the levee in some other area, no one thought it was important to fix. So when all these levees broke, that's where the problems came. It flooded the whole town, and people who were in the lower areas were stuck till the water came up to the roof, and they had nowhere else to go once they were on the roof. So the community, the people that were there, had to help each other. Some people had found boats and helped, older people get out, and the ladies with their babies. And a man was telling about how he was trying to get his whole family, his mother, his nieces, and when they were trying to hold on, that one of the little girls slipped, and her sister jumped in, who didn't know how to swim, jumped in and tried to save her, but luckily she got a hold to something, but her little sister was lost. And that he turned around and his mother slipped under the water, and they couldn't do anything but watch it. They talked about how they were telling people, go to the dome and that's where they were herding. And when I say herding, I'm using that word. That's where they were herding them to the dome and packing them all in there. They were in the dome, laying on the streets, on the bridge, just wherever. What I didn't know was that they had armed guards there, and it wasn't to help them, it was to make sure that they did not leave the dome. They could have walked. There was a bridge that led to another city that wasn't flooded. And the people that did try to go over that bridge, they were met by police and armed guards with guns telling them to go back to the dome. They weren't letting them out. So if they are in a trying to get help, they didn't have food, water, why would you make them stay where there's danger, where they're trying to get out of? They don't want to drown. They don't want to lose their life. Why is there armed guards who are forcing them to stay in the Metrodome? There were people there who had passed away due to, health issues, and they would just cover them and leave them there. Nobody was going to pick them up. So these people were living with all of this, with no food and no water, and they were forced to stay there because they didn't want them to leave. Bush came back after he was on vacation. He stayed 2 extra days, and then he went to address the situation, and he flew over and went to the White House and said a few words, and that was it. Now, all 3 people, the mayor, the governor, and the president, didn't get along, so they weren't really caring. They will blame whoever they need to blame. The other will blame that person, and then, because they weren't working together because they didn't get along. So they finally decided we're going to have was he Navy, Army? I can't think of the man's name. Go in and handle. So he just started doing. He didn't have orders. He wasn't going by what they're telling him to do. He just started telling them what. First of all, he came in there and told them all to put their guns down because they had guns trained on these people because they did not want them to leave the Metrodome. Also, they had no food and water, so they were looting. Yes, they were looting, and they were going into the stores and taking water, diapers for babies who, there was 2-day-old babies, and they didn't have milk, and they were trying to survive. So it became a time that it wasn't a crime, it was survival. You're not bringing in anything to help us. We're going to make sure that our people don't die. So instead of helping, but you could have put your gun down and said, there's water, they pointed their guns at them and told them to drop everything that they had and threw it into the garbage. So they didn't want them to have this stuff, but you threw it in the garbage, because you weren't protecting it, you just didn't want them to have it. They showed pictures of some kids on the ground by gunpoint, little boys, little girls, because they wanted to pat them down before they put them on buses to move them to other areas. They showed the Caucasian people on the next wherever block where people had to walk past to get to this bridge to leave, that were shooting at black people because they were black, and they figured that they were going to come in there to loot. And they were just trying to get somewhere safe. They were trying to get their family somewhere safe, their grandparents, their the babies. They were just trying to get somewhere safe, and they were treated as criminals and basically war criminals. Um, how does a child feel like you're helping us when I have a gun on me and I have my hands behind my back, and the only thing that I did was my house got flooded and my parents struggled and did what they had to do to get us out of there. Could you imagine how those kids felt, what they felt, how those families felt being treated like that? They didn't want them moving. They didn't want to take them to any other city. They wanted them to stay there, but they weren't bringing anything in to help them. So, anyways, this if you go see it, you'll see the whole thing. Army, and I think I want to say he's black. He might not have been. He just had that voice. You know, sometimes when people live in Louisiana, it doesn't matter what skin, they all have that accent. So he came in there and made them respect and put your guns down, get out, get a truck, bring water in here. You know, we're going to treat them, respectfully. And that's what got stuff moving, because George Bush went back to the White House and did whatever he did, or however whatever. So for Kanye West to get on TV and say that Bush doesn't care about black people, I think that was a statement that caused people to really take heed, or to start to do something. Because why are they? You go over there and they were calling them refugees. The black man said they're not refugees, they're citizens of Louisiana. That you got treated like this in your own country. They would have a picture in the paper of a black man carrying water, and the title would say New Orleans citizen looting water or whatever. But then over in this paper you would see two white people and they'd have bread or whatever, and the title would say New Orleans citizen found bread and water. They found it, but they looted it. What is the difference? They both got them from the same place. So what is the difference? The color of their skin. So do you want to ask me, has anything changed? Have we made progress? I could go, I don't even want to go back. I just use that as an example because I just watched the documentary twice. I had to watch it. I watched it the first time. I watched it, but I wasn't really in the depth. I didn't get in depth. But the second time I did, because I wanted to understand what really went wrong. And I think it was wrong from the beginning. I don't know who was in charge of the levees. I don't know. I just think it could have been prevented, and I think they knew it could have been prevented, but they didn't take any measures to do so. The head of FEMA, when they would get questions about who's to blame, because there's somebody to blame, he wanted to blame it on the citizens who didn't evacuate. So basically what he was saying, if you're still here and you're stuck in your home and you don't have food or water, it's your fault because you should have left. even if you didn't have a way to leave. So I can go into other stories, but I'm not. So when you ask me how have we made a change, have we moved, has Martin seen the over the mountaintop, um, have we seen the promised land, have we been to the promised land? No. The only promised land that you'll see is when Jesus returns. You have done what you were told to do, or you have done what God had planned for you to do, and then that's when you will see the promised land. If you think you're ever going to see it here, you're sadly mistaken. You might see, because like I said, the media will show you whatever you want, whatever they want you to see. So they'll show you a little here and there. Trump signed something that says, and everybody claps, and then behind the scenes, they pass something that says we can kick everybody out of their homes all at the same time in 30 days. They will let you see what they want you to see. No one of color has ever ran this world, has ever ran the United States, has never ever made a decision, a law, anything. And when you don't have representation, thank you. When I get upset, I get. You don't have anybody that understands what you're going through. They don't see it your way. You don't have those type of people. Things aren't going to change for you. Not at all. The only time things change for you is if you are entertaining them. You make millions of dollars because you can catch a football or dunk a ball or make rap music that sells a lot of money and causes, they're killing two birds with one stone in that aspect. Or you are a female rapper and you can make lip gloss that is disgusting and really puts black women down. When white people are alcoholics, it's labeled as an issue, and they send them to, it's a Betty Ford issue. We just, they just need to get help. But where's our Betty Ford? Our Betty Ford is liquor stores on every corner in the community. That's what our Betty Ford is. Where's the hospitals, and the good hospitals that they take you to, and they say they can't, well, you're going to have to send them back down, because their insurance does not, we can't. What does a doctor take an oath for? If you have a shotgun patient that's been wheeled into your emergency room, and you have to operate immediately, he's not going to make it. You have to sign off on it because his insurance is not, I don't know how that works, but he has to go to the county hospital, so you patch him up and give him a little painkiller, and then they send him on to where they need to go. It's going to be an extra 15, 20, 30 minutes. Do we just have a blind eye? Have we just given up? Are we just accepting just whatever? Let's just, as long as you can get a good income tax at the end of the year. I am so sick and tired of hearing income tax, like that's a um, big bonus from your job or something. Um, they make it sound like it's free money. It's not free. You're getting part of what you've paid in, and yeah, for child care and EIC, and they make you think, oh, the government's so nice, they're giving us. The government doesn't give you anything for free. You pay for it in some kind of way. Taxes get raised, other programs get taken away. You're going to pay for it in some kind of way. But they'll make you think that, we're not bad, we're not that bad, we're helping, this is what we're doing because, whatever. We're going to give you low minimum wage jobs, and then you're going to get a big bonus. We want you to work this low minimum wage job and barely make it through 12 months. But on that first month of the year, or January, February, or March, or whatever, you're going to have a lot of money. And I don't know, some people, I've never, 6,000 maybe. I've heard maybe some people get 12,000. I don't know. But they feed you pieces of bread and make you think that you're full. So we just sit and don't worry about anything else. We read it in the news and say that's sad. And did you hear about so and so? And did you hear that Trump is going to do? And I guess it's really not important because our lives are so full of, entertainment. We've got to get our money together to go to the concerts. I don't know when Young Boys, I don't know if his concert started, and I don't know what dates and what towns cities he's hitting, but people have to get their tickets, and they have to get their outfits because, NBA YoungBoy dresses to the nines. So we're going to have to, meet. One thing I will say about, a lot of people say bad things about him, but I have followed that young man from the time he started, from the beginning until, and when I've seen him in the beginning, I said he's going to start off but he's going to make a difference. I could tell. He came from a broken place. He came from but he had something in him that he wasn't afraid to be different, or he wasn't afraid that the man goes around. He's just different, and I think he can make a change. I think some of his songs are inspirational, and I think if they get him the right people and not yes men, that he can make a change. He can be a spokesperson for young men. So don't count him out just because he's had run-ins with the law, and he has 12 baby mamas, and don't count him out. We always want to have our heroes to have stars on their shoulders and to look and be presentable. Sometimes our heroes are drunks. Sometimes our heroes are people who have been through some things. Don't let them choose who our hero should be. We might not want the heroes that they have or that they use. So once again, I guess that's what I had to say for today. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Chooses the right way to go, makes a change in their life, lets something roll off their back. Don't allow the girl who said something smart to you because she just doesn't like you and because you exist. Don't let her rile you up. Just look at it as if she admires you and she looks up to you. And just live your life. Be happy. Don't let anybody take your happiness. Don't let anybody steal your joy. Don't feed into the negativity of what the world wants you to. The evil world, what the devil wants you to fall, and he wants you to keep falling. So he's going to keep throwing things at you every day. Like I said, if he wasn't bothering you, that means you're not doing anything, he wouldn't bother you if he already had you on his side. So if he's continuously bothering you, that's because he knows time is running out and he needs to get you. And you can check a few more things off the list. We're getting down. That list is getting very, very short. I just wish the best for everyone. Until next time.